AFL superstar.
How many countries will you visit? It's around about 32.
Eagle supporter.
Doesn't get any better than that.
No, that's it.
The other day they had the Hawthorn greats here at the club,
Yep.
and I was just so inspired by your story,
Yep.
and I'd love you to share it with everyone watching this. And there was a fair bit of adversity that Chance went through very early on in his career, and I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah.
But I think it's just a great story.
Yeah. So, like I said, I dreamed of playing AFL footy since I was a young kid, and I went over there as a pretty sort of naive 18-year-old, and probably didn't have the understanding of what it actually took to be an AFL player. And I went over, and in my first couple of years I was nowhere near as professional as you need to be a quality AFL player. It's funny now when I have or when I know players that have been drafted from Perth, or I said the same thing to Fish when he went to Melbourne, and Gordy Narrier and Quinton Narkle and those sort of blokes. It's getting drafted is actually the easy part.
Yeah.
The hard work starts once you get there, and I probably didn't realise that when I was younger, and I was probably going out too much, not eating the right foods, drinking too often, and my body shape wasn't great, my fitness levels weren't that of a quality midfielder in the AFL system, and it probably wasn't until my sister passed away in a train accident as a 15-year-old. So she was just tragically taken from us. I remember getting the call over in Melbourne. We were actually on a bit of a training camp on one of the coastal towns over there, and I get the call and from my sister, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I just knew that I had to get home straight away. And I came back and probably spent, being 20, 21 years of age and not having dealt with anything like that before, I got over here and my mates were around every day, and I was with my brother mostly and some of his mates, and we were just pretty much just drinking the whole time, because you don't know how to deal with all the emotions that come with that. But I end up coming home one night from the pub, and they had a note on the door from Mum saying, you need to get back to Melbourne and continue with your footy. Your sister would be so disappointed in you being over here and carrying on the way you are, and wasting your opportunity and wasting the only thing you've dreamed of doing. So that was a real turning point in my life, where I did go back there, and that was sort of towards the end of 2001. And I played in a premiership with Box Hill over there in the VFL. But from that moment on, it was the off season of that year, I requested a trade. Because when something like that happens, your mindset's not completely right, and I was thinking to myself, I'd hate for something like that to happen and me be stuck on the other side of the country. But now when I look back at it, I was so grateful, or I'm so lucky that West Coast and Freo didn't trade for me. And I had it in my head once I found out that it wasn't going to be a trade, and Hawthorn still wanted me to go back there. They'd offered me another year or two on my contract. I'd sort of set my mind to it then that I was going to be a one-club player, and I was going to be the best player I could possibly be. So after 2001, the start of the 2002 pre-season, it was all about just being the best professional athlete I could be. That meant eating the right foods, getting plenty of water in, looking after your hydration, making sure if the coach said you had to stretch for 46 seconds, that I did it for 46 seconds. Everything to the nth degree, and I'd improved vastly from that point on in terms of my professionalism, and there's no doubt in my mind that from that point in my life, that turning point in my life, and if you can if you can take a positive out of something so devastating as that, is that it actually turned my whole career around, and I was able to last in an AFL system for 13 years, and lucky enough to play in the premiership. So, yeah,
amazing, absolutely amazing. That you know, in life, you know, like you say, this adversity or negative happens, and you've made a decision, and that letter from your mum. Good on mum.
Yeah.
So, otherwise, mate, you might have ended up with 20 games, and that's about it. So,
absolutely.
Now, also, Chance has got a charity at the moment, which you don't know this, mate, but we're going to put $100 towards
thanks,
the
mate.
charity to
I really appreciate that.
help with your cause. Could you just tell us a little bit about your charity and how other people can support that? You know, because it's another thing that's quite close to home.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so my wife's mum was diagnosed with breast cancer late last year, and not long after the diagnosis, she had a mastectomy. And she's in about her 3rd or 4th round of chemotherapy as it stands right now. And as a show of support, I've decided to get a page up and running and try and raise some funds. I've set a pretty ambitious total of 15 grand.
You can get there,
to try and raise some money for breast care, breast cancer care WA. And they're an organisation that provides some, you know, practical, emotional and financial support for anyone that's going through cancer, breast cancer, and also for the people that support them, so family members and carers. And because of the generosity of people all over the state, that's a free service. So I'm trying to raise some money for them, and once I reach that 15,000 mark, I'll shave off the beard down to the skin and the hair right down to the skin. So, like I said, it's to raise money for a fantastic organisation, but it's also a huge show of support for my mother-in-law, who, you know, I spoke to you earlier about being inspired by people that, you know, face real adversity, and you know, when your life is struck by such devastating news that she's got. I have been inspired by, you know, the way she's taken on her diagnosis, but also the way in which she's approached her treatment moving forward. She's just been, you know, completely courageous in that aspect of it, and you know, the people around her, so my wife and her brother, and you know, Sol's husband, their father, they've probably been more affected by it than she has, and so it's a show of support for her, and hopefully raise some money for a much needed cause.
No, brilliant. Well, look, anybody that is watching this video who is a Hawthorn supporter, Perth supporter, if you could make a donation to this charity, you go to Instagram, Chance Bateman, and you'll find it on there, and they can go through the GoFundMe.
Yeah, so you can also go to Breast Cancer Care WA, and my page will be on there, and they can donate directly through that website.
Okay, so please dig deep, and mate, it's been fantastic to interview you and hear your story. Also, Chance does do public speaking, so if you want him to inspire your team, he can be contacted through his Instagram page, and he'll be happy to come out and talk to your sales team or your business team as well. So mate, thanks again for your time.
Thanks,
really
Michael.
Appreciate it. We're looking forward to a big season, especially those midfielders.
Absolutely.
And bye for now.
Yeah.